Hi, hello, salut, bonjour. I hope you're doing very well from wherever you're watching at this moment. As always, I'm very glad to connect with you as we continue this important series on the Republic of Cameroon, especially post-elections, the presidential elections that took place on October 12, 2025, for which we are just few hours now to the official verdict, the results proclamation by the Constitutional Council of Cameroon. And as you know, you've seen the videos, there's tons of arrests going on. There are curfews in major cities of the country. The people are also protesting because just like Issa Tchiroma Bakary, the front runner who proclaimed himself the winner following results of exit polls, had called for people to come on the streets and protest and show their solidarity and support for his movement, or the movement of change which he is championing. And across the world, we've seen videos, live videos from Douala, Newbel, Ndokoti, all across, even in Yaoundé, where it wasn't that populous, it was a little bit timid, and we know why. But we have videos from Garoua to Maroua to Kusere to Guidé. You can come down to the east in Betari Oya. I mean, everywhere. Yes, we do know that some parts of the country could not have the same amount of population come out to support this movement, because we also do have reports that many opinion leaders, strong youths across different fractions of the society, were called in to sign undertakings that they would not participate in any form of protest or march, be it peaceful or not. And we can also tell you that there are videos circulating of certain Cameroonians who say they don't want manipulation, they don't want to participate in any protest in their neighborhoods, they don't want to be part of any disorder, they want peace. And on one hand, one has to question the sincerity, because why question the sincerity? Because the same motorbike riders that were banned from circulating in certain areas are the same motorbike riders that we see in this fraction of Cameroonians that are saying that they want peace and they don't want any manipulation or protest in their neighborhoods. And they do have banners. They seem to be organized. They seem to be more peaceful according to the way they are projected and presented on social media. And they are championed by certain Cameroonians who are also called influencers on the internet, because they support the regime and the CPDM in place. And on the other side, you could see spontaneous protests where the youth came out from different areas of the city, and all they were chanting was they want change. Issa Tchiroma Bakary is their president, is the winner. And in the same spirit, for the first time since we've seen protests happen in Cameroon during elections, we could see a big truck from the gendarmerie parading the streets of Douala, but being blocked by a human shield. A mobilization of youth were able to block a big tanker of the Gendarmerie Nationale that had on its top rifles that were already aimed and ready to go into action, because that's exactly what they are meant for. Whether or not there were bullets there, we don't know. But we do know that that tanker is responsible for dispelling a liquid that scratches the body. And there's a term in Cameroon, they call it Mami Wata. And you could see that the youth were able to climb on top of this tanker and holding it to its rein and being able to kind of stroll with it and roll down in the city, and while they continue their protests, and which was for the most part peaceful, because again, it's normal that when people gather together in a huge crowd and there's some kind of commotion, it can lead to a lot of disruption. But we could see that from the videos that we've gathered, we could tell that the protest was intended to be passive and also peaceful. And that is exactly what was happening. Now, we do have reports that some people may have lost their lives and some casualties ensued, which is regrettable. We are still investigating to find out what exactly transpired. In the meantime, though, we can update you about the arrests. There have been so many arrests already so far. We can mention the big four that we talked to you about in our recent video of Anicet Ekane, of Djeukam Tchameni, of Florence Ticho, of Fabrice Lena. We can also add to that Professor Abaoyono, and there's also a confirmed report of Dr. Aristide Mononjana, which we can confirm that has had interactions with at least a few officers. We still need to confirm about Dr. Aristide Mononjana. He's been arrested, released. We need to find out exactly where he is right now, because he came out and posted a lengthy post where he explained exactly what was going on around him. And these are intellectuals, people that have worked so hard over the years to make sure that Cameroonians are informed and educated as to what is their constitutional right of good governance and also free, fair, and transparent elections. And that brings us to an important video release put out by Issa Tchiroma Bakary himself, where on video, he's addressing the world, the international community, as well as the Cameroonian people, home and abroad, telling them of an ugly incident that a whistleblower saved his life because there was an attempt to extract him from his home by elements of forces that we don't know yet, and that he was just saved by this whistleblower. Because like we've pointed before, those that laugh at the human shield, the barricade around his home where you have young people that have taken to themselves to protect his residence. Somebody joked that the military, or said that the military can always blow that small human shield any day, any time. They are right, because yes, the military has the weapon and the tools. But people may be targeting Issa Tchiroma Bakary, but they are failing to see one thing. All the evidence on the ground, the reports suggest that Issa Tchiroma Bakary is not the target. Or let me put it this way, all the reports and evidence suggest that Issa Tchiroma Bakary is not the main focus. The people are saying that they want change. Issa Tchiroma Bakary is just an instrument of that process. Because of course, it's going to take a human being, a Cameroonian, who is full, like they say, with a full chest to stand up to a regime after 43 years. Who is that Cameroonian? And that is why Issa Tchiroma Bakary took on that mantle. And you could see in this video, he's exhausted. Cameroonians are exhausted. Some of them are not on the street. It's not because of fear or lack of conviction, but it's exhaustion. How can you wait 15 days to know the result of an election that you could have known within 24 hours? In Ivory Coast, I don't want to talk about Ivory Coast today, but story for another day. The results are coming out within 24 hours. Cameroon is no different. But they will tell you that the Electoral Code says ABCD. No. In fact, the Electoral Code tells you in its articles clearly that within 48 hours, Elections Cameroon has to transmit the result sheet, the return sheet, listen carefully, to the divisional headquarters of election supervision. And that headquarters is not chaired by an Elections Cameroon official. No. People should understand this carefully. It is chaired by a judge. It is chaired by a judge. Why? Is to tell you that the results have been handed over. But why does Electoral Code provide these provisions? Pardon the tautology. It's in essence because this is what people are crying for. The system is not designed to legally put a new person in place. Because everything is tailored. The anger of the people towards Elections Cameroon is because so many irregularities took place on the day of elections. Like we've told you before, there are many windows of fraud. And the biggest windows of fraud are the ones that happen the day of elections and the one that happens within that 48 hours. And therefore, if this procès-verbal have been doctored already, by the time they get to Yaoundé at the National Commission for Final Counting, there is nothing that commission can do, but rather than just tally these results and prepare a report and present it before the Constitutional Council, which is what has already been done up until now. And the Constitutional Council only has to come and do a reading exercise. And that is why critics and observers are decrying the fact that despite having an electoral code that is considered outdated and obsolete, the people rose in their masses to go and vote for change. And they were able to use modern day technology to capture everything that happened at the different polling stations. And they plastered this data on the internet. They were able to share instances of electoral fraud, malpractices. And this is why the people, for once, are standing up as one strong force to demand that change. They are no longer scared. When you look at the way people are chanting on the streets, they are no longer scared Now, it's important that as we present the facts to you, we also come alongside with in-depth analysis to tell you why things are the way they are. Because in as much as we can tell you who is doing what is happening where, and how it's happening, it's most important to tell you why you're seeing what you're seeing, or why you know what you know about Cameroon up until this moment. For those of you who are watching across the world and in Africa, you may just be scratching your head to understand why there is even a debate around the election or re-election of a 92-year-old president that has been in office for 43 years as president. Prior to that was already prime minister for close to 20 years, and before that had held different posts of high responsibility in Cameroon's political landscape and governance. Why are we where we are today in 2025? For starters, I can tell you a few things that will give you context. Number one, in order to illustrate the why, we have to go back to statistics, because numbers don't lie. We're talking about a population that is estimated at 30 million people, for which 6 out of every 10 Cameroonian is 25 years and below. And this is a population that is being ruled and governed by a small elite class of people that are between 75 years old and 93, 94, 95 years old. Listen to that carefully. The elite and the ruling class that wield all the power, that governed the entire country, are between the ages of 75 years. That is post-retirement age in every functional democracy. That's called post-retirement age. Those are the people that are governing the country and hold all the power. They are a small minority and they form an elite class, but their ages ranges from 75 right up to 92, 93, 94. And how did that come to be? It's because instead of having the state that is supposed to be neutral and having technocrats in place to serve the people through good governance, no, it's been intertwined with a system called CPDM. And this CPDM is the association that is supposed to be a political party that goes into office and goes out of office, just like political parties go in and out in different parts of the world. But no, this political party, as we speak, is part of a regime that has been in office for 43 years. And therefore, it makes it very difficult and impossible to govern properly, because those that work for the state, that come from different walks of life, whether you go to the Department of Justice, you will see magistrates and lawyers that were trying to do their job. If you go to the Department of Health, what we call Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Agriculture, you will see people that have been trained in these domains that want to practice and perform and do their duty. But no, their hands are tied. Let me use the expression of a former Supreme Court judge who pronounced election results in 1992 that is also responsible for where we are today. And he said, my hands were tied, or my hands are tied, when he proclaimed results that till today is contested in Cameroon history, because John Frundi would have been the president of Cameroon had those results just been read truthful to the ballot box. Let's not dwell in the past. Let's move fast forward to 2025, because what happened in the past, yes, it may have been the bedrock of where we are where we are today, but most importantly, if the present is not handled properly, we may be seeing Cameroon go into a chaotic mode that none of us want to see, because from what we are gathering as tangible reports and evidence verified, proof checked, fact checked information tells you that we are at the crossroads of a very delicate situation in Cameroon. And it's important that as the world is watching, Africans across the globe are watching, Cameroonians, home and abroad, are engaged. For once, they should pay particular attention at the governance of the country. Because when you see young people in the streets protesting and chanting, ready to risk their lives when they have their future ahead of them, some of the old people, nothing against the old, because in our culture, in African tradition, these are people that are supposed to be respected. And in order to respect the elderly, we take them out of the spotlight. We bring them home and continue to care for them. But in this instance, when you see people that are supposed to be out of the spotlight, being cared for by family members and loved ones, trying to hold on to the reins of power and allowing themselves to be manipulated, because when we hear the word manipulation, you hear that the youth are being manipulated when they go to the street to protest, whereas the facts are showing something otherwise. Because all the civil society activists that are being threatened, all the lawyers and journalists that are being threatened, the media cannot even speak with authority in Cameroon. When you listen to reporters, when you see people on different TV panels, you can tell that they are speaking from a place of fear. The only people that have the highest voice, the loudest voice, are the people that seem to come from one political party called the CPDM. And unfortunately, someone may think that when you present the facts that go against the CPDM party, it means that someone hates the CPDM. No. It's because the CPDM has been in government for too long. In as much as they will say it's not their fault, but they are the same ones who would run to defend Elections Cameroon when you say Elections Cameroon was full of fraud and rigging. And they are the same one who would jump to defend anything you say about the country that is not going the right direction. So if CPDM members are the ones defending the state, then one needs to wonder, is the CPDM the state? No. The state is the state. A political party is an association. By definition, when you register a political party in Cameroon, a political party is an association. They may contribute to put a leader in office, but that leader is there to serve all Cameroonians. Which means that if Cameroonians truly elected President Paul Biya during the 2018 elections, what the same Cameroonians are saying today is that he has failed them. And throughout the 7 years of this mandate, they have rarely seen him in places. These are facts. And during the few times where we've seen President Paul Biya in public, in some cases, if he was not well calculated and guarded and he's left by himself, we could see how it's sometimes humiliating. Because in one instant, his wife had to raise his hand for him to wave at the crowd that was out there to chant for him. He could not even recognize the crowd. So they had to raise his hand up. These are videos that are there. I mean, if these videos did not exist and you talk about it today, someone would say you are not presenting the facts. Do we talk about the video where he was in a conference, supposed to be addressing dignitaries in the hall, and he was asking his chief of staff, est-ce qu'il y a les gens importants dans la salle? We can interpret it in different ways. But the bottom line is that this is the governance that the people have said they don't want it. Because things have happened across the country that you would have seen the head of state go to these different places. But yet, his defenders are telling you that no, he doesn't have to go there because he is everywhere and everywhere at the same time. And that is where critics of Issa Tchiroma Bakary will point to him to say he was the one who said some of these things. He used to come out and say that, oh, the head of state is everywhere, omnipotent, omnipresent, because, of course, you can interpret that to say when you have different people like senior divisional officers and DOs that represent the Ministry of Territorial Administration, they also answer to the state because they call them chef terre and stuff. It means that the president is there because they will relay facts to him. No. That is not what the people elected a president to do. And so, in as much as Issa Tchiroma Bakary has apologized profusely for all his contributions in creating the status quo, to his defense, he says he did all these things because he was mandated to say so. And therefore, as a spokesperson of the government, he was doing that based on the alliance his party, the FSNC, and the CPDM, or the president, the head of state, had in common, based on the common grounds or the memorandum of understanding that they may have signed. But today, the people say they don't care because the people knew all of that. So when his critics try to discredit him by saying he's a chameleon, he said this yesterday, he's now going to say this tomorrow, who knows what he will do when he gets to office, the people have said they don't care. When you listen to all the Cameroonians from different parts of the world, all those that are in the country that voted for him, they said they don't care. They knew all of that. Of course, the tapes are there. You can bring all the tapes and say he said this, he said that. He hasn't denied any of those. On the contrary, he has profusely apologized and done some honorable things and also presented a platform. And that is why it's important for us to highlight that the people that were arrested from the L'Union pour le Changement, the movement that came together and gathered many Cameroonians of goodwill, civil society activists who put themselves together and said they want to be able to vet a leader. Which makes sense because the way Cameroon is moving today, it can tell you that the opposition was never true and sincere. Because if the opposition was true and sincere, where are they today? The country is shaking. The foundation of the country is shaking. Where are the opposition leaders? Where are these people that run for the post of president? Where are they? This is their moment to come out and address the country and tell their own side of the story. Because that is why this UPC, this L'Union pour le Changement, came very strong, and the people listened to their voice and were able to see that if this L'Union pour le Changement say they've gone through their rounds, they've spoken to all the different candidates vying for the post of president, and they've listened to their platforms, and they've presented their demands to them. And among those demands is the fact that Cameroon needs an overhaul, a total overhaul in governance. And they told Issa Tchiroma Bakary clearly, you have to be a president of transition. 3 years, maximum 5 if possible, but 3 years. And they gave him the conditions. And make sure that you bring some truth and reconciliation. Because come to think of it, when you see this massive number of people protesting across the country, to some people they will say it wasn't enough, there's not enough numbers. Oh, those are disgruntled Cameroonians. No, those are not disgruntled Cameroonians. Those are Cameroonians, intellectuals, eggheads, technicians, important people, civil engineers who want change for their country. And we cannot just ride along those waves and say those are disgruntled people of the opposition. No, because there are many men and women sitting in offices in Yaoundé that want change. They're not happy being there, but probably because of the same fear and intimidation that had taken the country by hostage. The fear and intimidation that had taken the country under siege. Because there are men and women in Yaoundé who work hard every day to make sure that the country is functioning. They don't want to see chaos in their country. They are peaceful men and women all over Cameroon. But of course, they cannot always be on the street. Yes, the people that are taken to the street may look like a minority to others. No, but they are a good sample size. If you conduct any survey, any research, anywhere in the world, there's always something called a sample size. And this population that is protesting is considered a good sample size of the entire demographic of Cameroon. Because they cut across different walks of life. And they represent all the ethnicities, different groups. Issa Tchiroma Bakary is from the north. Yes, you may say the presence of those in Garoua, Maroua, Gaoundéré, and all these places was huge because the protesters were from that region and they identify with Muslim attributes. No. What explains the fact that the briqueterie in Yaoundé, a very popular neighborhood where it's ascribed to the Muslim community, why were they encircled? Why were they facing heavy militarization? On a Friday, which is supposed to be the most important day in their religion. If you respect the people of the country, then there are moments when there are things that cannot be done. And that is why throughout this process, critics and observers continue to champion the cause of the government not being managed by those that are supposed to be managing it, but a few elite that are in positions of power, that are abusing their authority and using it to subdue the people, intimidate them, and instill fear in them. You cannot spread peace through intimidation. You are instilling fear in the hearts of the people. And when you see how in other parts of the country, the police, the armed forces are conducting themselves properly because they understand the stakes are so high. And that is why at this moment it's important to commend the Cameroonian armed forces, to commend the police forces, even the gendarmerie, those that are doing the right thing and upholding to their duty to protect the people. Because those that are working at the behest of a few elites that are holding on to power and trying to coerce the remainder of the population to be fearful, they know they are not doing the right thing because they have children, they have relations, they have family and loved ones that are working in the same country. If people say they want change because when the change comes, it's going to benefit the entire country, not just a few. When you see someone like Dr. Aristide Mononjana, this guy has suffered a lot in the hands of the system in place. Intellectual of his category does not have a full-time job in establishments that will be able to help him prepare for his future. And reports say he even lost a child. And all of this, he knows he could have fled the country and gone elsewhere, but he stayed put and continued to disseminate information and knowledge that can empower the Cameroon youth. Because all these people that have been arrested, we can only cite you these few names, but reports are suggesting that there are close to 50 people that have been arrested and even more in different circumstances. There's a video of a young man arrested in his home in the midst of his children. His kids are crying. He's been arrested, and he's saying clearly that, why are you arresting me? No warrant of arrest, no list of charges being levied against him, no access to his family, no access to legal counsel in a country that's supposed to be a country of law, rule of law, democratic. This is unthinkable. And this is why we cannot just present you the facts and leave it at that. The analysis have to put in the context. How would you explain that a civilian is being arrested in their home? No warrant of arrest. They are not a threat to public safety in any way, shape, or form. There are no weapons in their possession. Somebody's going to ask me, how do we know? The facts are there, because if that was the case, you have to have a warrant of arrest. And when the person is being arrested, there has to be an official statement, especially in the case where you say he is trying to instill some violence or threat to the state. There has to be an official statement coming from the Department of Justice, presented to the public to show fairness, because justice can not only be done, but must be seen being done. But if you don't present these facts to the people, it means that the arrest is considered unlawful. Cameroon has signed all kinds of international treaties and instruments of law. So Cameroon does not stay on its own, because international law and treaties, they come above the constitution. Because guess what? Those international laws and treaties can never violate the constitution of any country in the first place. And for reference, the constitution of Cameroon protects the right of the people. Every article is carefully crafted to reflect the rights of the people. And so any law that came out of that constitution was meant to also go in line with that same constitutional guarantees of protection. And here we are seeing arbitrary arrest. All of these people that have been arrested, from Anicet Ekane right down to Professor Abayono, is the fact that they support Issa Tchiroma Bakary and have been publicly seen to express their views as to why they support him, as to why they believe he won these elections, even though the results have not been proclaimed. What is wrong in somebody saying that they believe that somebody won an elections? Why would you arrest them as a preventive measure? So one is made to believe that this postponement of the proclamation of results was done in order to prepare the way by arresting people for preemptive measures so that the proclamation should be considered hitch-free. And this is why we expect that the noble men and women that are governing Cameroon in Yaoundé, especially if the President of the Republic, President Paul Biya, says he's a statesman, a man who wants to be remembered for having brought prosperity and democracy to Cameroon. And those that are in office, those dignified ministers that are doing a fantastic job to preserve the heritage of Cameroon in their different capacities, this is their moment to sit in a small round table and determine that, no, let the head of state take a bow and let democracy take its course. They have the powers in their own hands, because just as everybody is waiting for the results of these elections, one thing is for sure: people are not waiting for the numbers. People are waiting for the reaction. Because after those numbers will be read and the winner read, the reaction that follows is that which is most important. Cameroon's peace work fatherland must be protected and preserved. Because this is an important moment. It's important that the country has seen the images. But for once, people should not feel like they were trapped. Because it almost feels like the Constitutional Council was buying time to see all of this manifestation take place. And we just hope that all the people that have shown their faces, that have come out, they should never be identified, tortured, because all they did was to stand up for democracy. We do hope that, as we know some prominent names, those whose names are not prominent, those whose faces are not on social media, but who are languishing somewhere, in some corner, in some jail, being tortured because of their ideas, we hope and pray that it's not the case, because that is bad for democracy. All we want is to see transparency. When it's good, we say it's good. When it's not good, we say it's not good. Because right now, what is happening in Cameroon is not good.